Monday lands in the MEAC tonight. It's Coppin State paying a visit to Norfolk State in Eichel's Hall. And for these two squads, it's the fourth meeting in the last 16 days, with the previous one coming just yesterday, and it was a win for Norfolk State, 84-72. Coppin State getting the two previous W's to push this to a 2-1 series so far this season. In the standings for the MEAC, it is a very interesting time right now as these two teams are part of the MEAC Northern Division, and Norfolk State with a half-game lead over Coppin State in second place in the North. Hello, everybody. I'm Derek Jones alongside the former Virginia Cavalier, Corey Alexander. And Corey, as mentioned from the top, these two teams no stranger to one another, fourth meeting in the last 16 days.
And up until the meetings where Coppin State was able to win on their home court, Norfolk State held a 14-game winning streak over Coppin State. So now that Coppin won 2 at home, Norfolk won 1 back on their home court yesterday, they're looking to even the season series between the two. But there are two spectacular guards that we're going to talk about a lot during this game when you consider who's going to have the impact as who wins and who loses. Devontae Carter had a tremendous impact in Norfolk State's win yesterday with 31 points and 7 assists. He's going to continue to be aggressive because Coppin State wants to force him to take tough twos and keep him off the three-point line. And for Coppin State, DeJuan Clayton has been their guy, one of the leading scorers all time. 18 points, 7 assists for him yesterday was not enough. Look for Clayton to have a much bigger performance here on the road tonight.
These two clubs meeting, as we said, fourth time this season, and this is a big game for Coppin State, who's trying to end a slide here. They started out 5-1 in the MEAC, and they've lost 3 straight. The opening tap, controlled here, well, or not, as it goes out of bounds. And the Spartans will go through matters here momentarily to toss it in as we take a look at the starting lineups for both squads. First for the Spartans, Joe Bryant Jr., Tyrese Jenkins, Devontae Carter, who had a big game yesterday, Keonze Chavis, and J.J. Matthews. Very athletic lineup for the Spartans.
Spartans also with good size, and when you consider J.J. Matthews playing that 5 spot, but he's a guy that can also shoot it from beyond the arc. So you're talking about the ability to stretch the floor. One of the reasons why Norfolk State is one of the best shooting teams in the MEAC.
Right off the bat, the three-pointer in the corner is good, as it's Tark, Thomas, Clayton, and also Sarvan getting the start. And when we say Tark, we mean the Tark brothers, Anthony and Nunda.
But Coppin State knocked down 10 threes in their loss yesterday, so getting off to a great start shooting the ball from beyond the arc. But 20 turnovers did them in, leading to 21 points for Norfolk State on those points off turnovers. That's one of the things that Coach Juan Dixon talked about today, was limiting the turnovers. And I'm sure he also mentioned trying to limit Devontae Carter and his level of aggressiveness, how they're going to be able to guard him on pick and rolls, etc. But you see early in the game, Carter not only getting to the free throw line, but finishing it off as well. Opportunity for the and one here at the line.
So Carter had 31 yesterday, a career high for him, flirted with a triple-double. And he is a little off on the free throw attempt, with Coppin State still clinging to an early 1-point lead. Into the post. And the three on the way is an air ball out of the hands of Anthony Tark. The low blocks for Matthews. Hook shot is in.
You see Matthews trying to establish himself early. Norfolk State will use him in the post as well as give him opportunities on the perimeter, but Matthews with great size, and you see the touch around the basket.
Matthews leads the MEAC in field goal percentage at a 57% clip this season. Ball kept alive on the Coppin State possession. The three is up, and that is no good, out of the hands of Thomas.
Well, one of the things you recognize already, every shot from Coppin State has come from beyond the three-point arc. Over 50% of their shots are from around the arc. So Juan Dixon, who of course was a big-time scorer and shooter in his college days as well as his NBA time, he pushes the NBA style of play for his team. He wants them to be able to use the three-point line to space the floor, at the same time stay aggressive trying to attack the basket.
And certainly he's had a celebrated college career, but you hit on it there. His experience in the NBA, he has translated that into the Coppin State program. You had a lock with the dump off and a steal.
And that's another one of those turnovers, and that's the concern for Juan Dixon. He knows that his team cannot continue to give the basketball away. Norfolk State unable to capitalize on that one.
Thomas barreling in, and he can't believe it. It's a player control foul.
Back-to-back turnovers for Coppin State, but tremendous job getting back and getting set for Ninda Tark.
Joe Bryant Jr.
That's Joe Bryant getting in there for taking the charge, and Bryant does a great job of getting back, getting established outside of the restricted area to pick up the foul.
1 point lead for the Spartans. Carter into three defenders now outside. Chavis jumper, that's good.
But what you see with Norfolk State, who leads the MEAC in three-point field goal percentage, they're not going to force threes. They want to do their damage inside the arc, so they take good threes, not necessarily shooting a bunch of them, but they try to make sure that they take advantage of the opportunities they get attacking the basket.
Short hook is in from Aluk. You add Aluk. The jumper back down the other way by Carter, rimming and no good, and Aluk battling for the rebound, and that will lead to a whistle against the Spartans. 6'11", 230 pounds. Born in Kenya, moved to New Zealand, got to the United States at the age of 19. And Corey, he has not spent a lot of time on the floor with the team this year.
Well, he wasn't added to the roster until January 15th and actually made his debut the next day with 10 points and 6 rebounds. So he hasn't spent a lot of time in practice and honestly getting to get acclimated to his new teammates, transferring in from TCU. But you see now the ability to not only do his damage in the paint, but also stretch it from beyond the three-point arc as Aluk is able to knock down the three.
How about that? Stepping out at 6'11" and draining a three-pointer to give the Eagles a 2-point advantage.
But that goes back to what you mentioned earlier, Derek, when you talk about Juan Dixon and trying to implement an NBA style of play with his team at Coppin. Well, big shoot the three in the NBA. And so everyone on the floor is a capable three-point shooter. That allows you to be even more dangerous on the offensive end of the floor. But still another turnover for Coppin and another taken charge for Norfolk State getting back in transition defense. But it's the big fella, Aluk, knocking down the three to give Coppin the tie game.
Lift every voice and sing.
There have been prominent investments in historically black colleges and universities. McCord Maker, one of the top high school prospects in the country, committed to playing basketball at Howard, and Hall of Famer Deion Sanders became head football coach at Jackson State. Kyrie Irving of the Brooklyn Nets joined in as well, offering to pay tuition for 9 Lincoln University seniors.
Chris Paul, a key figure in recognizing HBCU programs while in the bubble for the NBA last summer. And Corey, when you take a look at the work that he did, bringing light to HBCU programs, that is so important for HBCU programs around the country.
Well, I agree, and I think a large part of it had to do with the fact that the NBA going back into the bubble and really being the focus of professional sports, of sports in general during a pandemic, with so many eyes on it. It was a great time for Chris Paul to bring recognition to HBCUs, and Chris Paul actually is partnering with the Undefeated and doing a docuseries, Why Not Us, which will premiere on February 12th, and where he is following the North Carolina Central program, which of course is a big rival to Norfolk State, but yet Chris Paul championed the efforts for the HBCUs for a very long time and continues to do so.
8-all game. Loose ball and a turnover. Turnovers have been a problem here for Coppin State, but they force one here. Tark, tough shot in the lane, and a foul coming once again against the Eagles.
And if that's a luck with that foul, you have to, the big fella has to understand that play is over. You got to get back down the floor, not give away fouls 85 feet from the basket when you're so important to this team and you're going to need to be on the floor. You can't give up those opportunities. And now you see a luck having to go sit down with that second foul this early in the first half after playing so well to start the game.
8-all ball game, as you just saw there. For more Black History Always storytelling, you can visit theundefeated.com. A little bit of a slow start from deep so far for the Spartans. Bryant Jr., he'll crank up a three, missing long, and Carter with a loose ball.
And that's an area of concern for Juan Dixon and his team. He's talked about how well they do defending the first shot. However, rebounding has been an issue for them, and they often give up too many second shots and second chance points, and that's been something that's done them in a number of times and hurt them significantly in their loss yesterday to these Spartans.
Matthews in the block. Double team, looking for help, 10 to shoot. Contested shot, missed, and the rebound grab by Nenda Tark.
Great job by Coppin State there, mixing up their defensive coverage when Matthews caught the basketball on the block. He was uncertain as to whether they were going to double team or let him go one-on-one. They were kind of in between, but forced a miss from J.J. Matthews around the basket.
Off the miss, Bryant once again to the post, now extended for Matthews. Matthews Jr. rimming out.
And if you're Robert Jones, you love those two looks by Matthews because he's the guy that you want taking those shots around the basket. As you mentioned, he leads the MEAC in field goal percentage. So you want him getting those looks, just unable to connect on the last two.
Long three by Tark is good. Nenda Tark showing the range from deep.
But you see how Coppin is going to attack you. They want to be able to move the ball around the perimeter and look for opportunities beyond the three-point arc. And now with the luck being on the bench, you see that Coppin gets much smaller, which can become more difficult to guard for Robert Jones, who is a defensive-minded coach. He talked to us a lot about the way his defense got going early in the year where the defense was ahead of the offense. Well, since then, the offense has picked up. They're scoring the ball over 75 points per game. However, he feels there's been slippage on the defensive end. He wants his team to be able to get back to where they were defensively early and where they've been offensively putting it all together.
Talking to him earlier today, you definitely got the sense that even though they're the #1 scoring defense in the MEAC, giving up 72 points per game, they're not where he wants them to be quite yet.
Well, he mentioned a number of times where they were giving up 37% on defensive field goal percentage early in the year. However, this is a team that went out and got wins at James Madison, had a win over Radford, had a win over George Mason. So this Norfolk State team has had success in the non-conference schedule. In that early part of the year, they were playing even better defense than they have in the MEAC, but their offensive production has picked up in MEAC play, and Coach Jones wants to see them doing it on both ends of the floor.
So Matthews Jr. heads out. As Kyle Cardacci to the rack, that one's knocked out of bounds, swatted. It'll stay with the Eagles.
But that's paying attention to detail with the scouting report. Cardesi has 45 made three-pointers on the season, so Norfolk State wants to make sure they run him off the three-point line, make him have to make plays off the dribble and inside the arc.
He's tied for first in the MEAC in three-pointers made so far. And an infraction here coming up. It looked like Tark there got caught up with the defense, and it looks like it's going to be a player control foul.
Yeah, offensive foul on Tark. You see lowering that left shoulder. And Norfolk State looks as though they've come into this game recognizing what the scouting report is and that they're going to make sure that they get in position of the Coppin State players to take those charges. That's the third offensive foul that Coppin State has picked up in this game, and now 4 turnovers for the Eagles.
That's the first on Tark. Carter coming up short with a 3. And the rebound snatched away by the Eagles, and Tark down the floor, losing the handle. He's had a tough start.
Is that a shot attempt or is that a turnover? I'm letting you score. You're my official scorer, but I'm going to know which one is it.
I'm going to call that a shot attempt.
Okay, that wasn't even close to a shot attempt. That was a turnover.
I'm trying to help him out. Off the miss, Carter swings it into the corner. Good passing here. 3-ball up. That missing out of the hands of Sidibe. And a loose ball foul coming. A 11-8 lead for Coppin State, approaching the midway point of half one. A 11-8 lead for Coppin State, approaching the midway point of half one. Like Tark there got caught up with the defense, and it looks like it's going to be a player control foul.
Yeah, offensive foul on Tark. You see lowering that left shoulder. And Norfolk State looks as though they've come into this game recognizing what the scouting report is and that they're going to make sure that they get in position of the Coppin State players to take those charges. That's the third offensive foul.
11-8 lead for Coppin State over Norfolk State. Derek Jones and Corey Alexander with you tonight. And Coppin State led tonight by their head coach, Juan Dixon, who had a tremendous college career as a Maryland Terrapin guard, led them to a national championship in 2002, and then took his skill set to the NBA. And Corey, he has really been able to effectively translate his work on the floor for his team.
Well, he did that very well. And, Juan Dixon actually was at Maryland for a number of years on Mark Turgeon's staff in player personnel. And I can remember having conversations with Juan when he was leaving Maryland. I believe it was 2015, about him wanting to coach. And he actually went to University of District of Columbia and coached the women's program there for 1 year before coming to Coppin. But when you think about what he's been able to do at Coppin State, improvement each and every year, and now he feels as though this team has what he wants to be able to be successful. Now, they are lacking some depth, and they have a number of players injured who are unable to play. They don't give him the level of depth for him to be able to play completely the style of play that he wants to implement, but yet he feels comfortable with where his program is right now, and they are starting to identify with his personality as a coach.
7th head coach in Coppin State history. Of course, spent 7 years with the NBA and got drafted by the Washington Wizards. Played on Michael Jordan's final team as a member of the Washington Wizards during Dixon's rookie year. Down the floor, the shot attempt on the way by by Kobe Thomas, and he's fouled.
Now, I gotta correct you on something, because again, I can't let you short my guy. He played 9 years in the NBA, and so I played 7. You got the numbers confused, but he's a 9-year NBA veteran, and that matters because, of course, you know, when you get older and your pension kicks in, you need those extra years of service. Juan Dixon looking like he can still go get a bucket. And I'm sure he tests it out every now and then in practice amongst his guys.
That's the first on Hicks. Second one is good. 12-8 lead. Chavis, who's shown some range earlier in this game, to feed baseline. 10 to shoot. The three, no good. Out of the hands of Kashawn Hicks, who can light it up from downtown as well. Another three-pointer, this time from Isaiah Gross. That is short. And the defensive board taken by Norfolk State, one of the best defensive rebounding teams in the MEAC.
And that's one of the areas of concern for Coppin State is not only their defensive rebounding, but offensive rebounding, their second rebounding overall in the MEAC. But, you know, that's one of the things that Coach Jones preaches for this team is that they go to the glass, but is Coppin coming up with the offensive board and put back, getting some second chance points and building now a 6-point lead.
Thomas with 6 points to start here for the Eagles.
So, Derek, we've got a discrepancy. We've got a discrepancy. Maybe you're right with the 7 years. No, the Coppin State bio says 9-year NBA career. So I'm going off the bio, but maybe your research is correct with 7 years. Our producer, Greg Pipes, in my ear let me know. No, it was 7. So, you know, is that my fault for listening to Coppin State?
Well, you would think that would be the correct number if they had it, but hey, it happens.
Well, I tell you what, regardless, Juan was a great player, both in college and a very good NBA player. And a lot of what he does, you can see it translates on the floor with his team right now. And not only on the offensive end of the floor, but defensively, where he's one of the all-time leading steals leaders in the ACC history. And this team leads the MEAC in steals per game at 9 a game. So they get after it defensively as well, but he wants to see his team become a better defensive team and finishing plays, not just on the offensive end of the floor, but defensively as well.
Chavis, elbow J, count it.
You know,
Beyonce Chavis.
Where you see so many teams only want to shoot the three, and again, not that Coppin only wants to shoot the three, but they take a lot more threes. We mentioned earlier, over 50% of their shots are from three-point range. Norfolk State is the opposite. Norfolk State loves to attack the basket, but they will settle for the mid-range shots if that's what the defense gives them. They don't have to get three on every possession. They'll take their chances scoring twos and getting the job done defensively and slowing you down.
So far, it's been the Kobe Thomas show. He has half the points for Coppin State. Another jumper from Chavis.
Well, Chavis is getting involved in that action. You want to talk about Kobe Thomas. Chavis getting involved as well. 8 points for him. So these two guys having a little individual battle going on here.
And a foul. Looks like we'll go the other way here potentially. 16-14 lead for Coppin State. More MEAC action on Big Monday in a moment. Tonight at 9 Eastern on ESPN, we've got a Big 12 battle for you as Cade Cunningham and 23rd-ranked Oklahoma State take on Kansas. It's the Cowboys versus the Jayhawks tonight at 9 over on ESPN and also available on the ESPN app. Derek Jones and Corey Alexander with you tonight, and it's been an interesting season so far in college basketball, but how odd is it to see no number next to the Kansas logo, Corey?
Well, Kansas is just in line with Kentucky, North Carolina, and Duke. Now the latest blue blood to not be ranked. And, you know, we go back to 1961, the last time where North Carolina, Duke, and Kentucky were not in the polls. I'm not sure what the date is when you include Kansas into that mix, but that really tells you what this season has been like And when you play with so many young players, it is difficult to be consistent. And you think about these two teams that we have with us today, both integrating new pieces into their system this year and still trying to find that level of consistency as to where they've been throughout the past few years, where Juan Dixon is building a culture. Robert Jones has had that culture and had success at Norfolk State. They're both trying to find ways to do it without a lot of summer practice, without a lot of extra time on the floor that they're used to having.
Off the Bryant Jr. miss. Rolling back down the floor is DeJuan Clayton, who has been quiet thus far, but he draws a foul on the drive.
But Clayton is the guy that makes Coppin State go. Now, we can talk about the Tark brothers all they want, and both very good players, but without DeJuan Clayton, it is difficult for Coppin to be successful when you consider the fact that this young man is their leading, is one of their leading scorers all time in school history, but also high on the assist list. So DeJuan Clayton at the point guard position makes Coppin State different. And missed 6 games earlier this year due to personal reasons. Juan Dixon is happy to have his floor general back on the floor.
That's the first and second point of the night for Clayton, who had been averaging 20 points per game in the previous 3 games against Norfolk State. The jumper again, this time is good by Chavis. So Chavis being forced really in some regard to shoot because of the way Coppin State has played defensively. He has 10.
Well, yeah, I don't think he's being forced. I think he's a willing scorer right now when you consider the level of confidence that he's playing with. You can force all you want. As Aluk gets back on the floor with the 2 fouls, makes a beautiful find to Tark under the basket. Easy dunk. When you double team the big, player movement, ball movement is important, and that's a great cut by Nenda Tark getting there, coming up with the dunk.
4-point lead for the Eagles. Into Hicks. Shot clock under 10. Bryant Jr. gets the ball stuck on his hip now. A jumper from Chavis. That one missing. Good box out. And the rebound to Thomas. Down the floor and on the attack again, it's Clayton. And he'll go to the free throw line again.
The big fella dropping dimes, and Tark coming over with the finish. And that's a great job of turning away from the double team, but keeping his head up and the vision to be able to find. If you're Norfolk State, one thing you cannot allow when you're double teaming a player, you have to take away the baseline, not allow him to turn that direction and be able to make a play inbounds. Use that baseline as another defender. So really is almost you have 3 defenders in comparison to just a double team, but a little too high on that double team as we get an opportunity to look at my God, DeJuan Clayton, a.k.a. Cocoa Butter, which he was nicknamed by his trainer, Darren McClinton, from McClinton Basketball Academy, who he works out with in the summertime. But you look at him, all close to 1,500 points, 400 assists throughout his career, and he continues to help this team go out and try to win on a nightly basis. Juan Dixon loves having him as his leader on this team.
3-pointer knocked down by Tashawn Hicks. Mentioned earlier, he's one of the top 3-point shooters on this team, and he cuts it to a 2-point lead. Into a lock, but that ball knocked outside. In the lane, the drive by Thomas, missing. And the Spartans are out on the move.
Going to the board. 2 guys going to the offensive glass gave the Spartans opportunity to get out in transition. However, they didn't take advantage of that. And Coppin State does a great job getting back defensively. But you see the presence that Aluk is on the floor, just forcing tough shots in there. And a great job by the big fella to not pick up a foul. If you're Norfolk State, you want to try to attack him and get him that 3rd foul, because you can tell Coppin is a much better team with him on the floor.
Tark knocks it down. Nenda Tark pushing the lead back out to 4.
Yeah, high praise for Nenda Tark. Talking with the opposing coach, Robert Jones, earlier today. He said, hey, the younger brother actually played better than the older brother did against us yesterday. But Tark has been good early as well in this one. 3 for 4 from the field, another rebound for him. And you can tell that the young guy is now starting to earn his wings. You know, of course, he's an Eagle, so therefore he's earning his opportunities on the floor. Juan Dixon trusts him a tremendous amount, and now you see DeJuan Clayton starting to heat up after getting to the free throw line, knocking down a couple free throws. Now he gets it done from beyond the three-point arc.
Biggest lead of the game so far for Coppin State.
But when you look at the three-point numbers, 1 for 10 for Norfolk State. We mentioned from a percentage standpoint, they're the best in the MEAC. But it's been Coppin with making 33% of their threes that's allowed them to establish the 7-point lead.
And Jalen Hawkins travels.
Cocoa butter. Screen and roll action. Not only to score, but also finding teammates, moving it on offensive end of the floor. And then, of course, pick and roll. You go under. I go over the top. Clayton for 3.
It is a lead for Coppin State, but during pregame, the T-shirts, this game is no secret. That is in reference to the legendary figure John McClendon, who has a big historic piece of HBCU basketball, and the secret game that took place between Duke and North Carolina Central dating back to 1944. And Corey, this is a significant figure in college basketball.
He is definitely that. You consider the fact that, of course, you got McClendon McDougal Arena at North Carolina Central, paying respect to the pioneer of, you know, black head coaches in college basketball. You look at 3 straight NAIA national titles at Tennessee A&I, but he was so instrumental in establishing HBCU basketball programs when he took on what he did at North Carolina Central and the level of success that he was able to have, inspiring to so many coaches, especially black coaches throughout the country.
Anthony Tark fouled there on the drive. Robert Jones looking on. And Corey, you know, we talked to him earlier today, and he gave us an idea, and Juan Dixon pretty much said the same thing. They both knew that Norfolk State wasn't going to be able to do what they wanted to do offensively.
Well, Juan Dixon doesn't want them to be able to do what they want to do offensively.
Right.
Juan Dixon is about taking teams out of what their normal rhythm is. He doesn't want to allow them to run their set. He was very complimentary of Coach Jones and their ability to run their offense and execute. And so what they're doing is getting into passing lanes, not allowing those entry passes to be able to run your offense. And at the same time, they want to force them to have to play pick and roll basketball. You know, and you're changing up the pick and roll coverages, which allows you to throw a team off of their normal rhythm, and they've done that thus far in this game. Norfolk State was able to knock down many two-point field goals. It was Devontae Carter with a bunch of tough two-point field goals in yesterday's win, but they haven't had the same level of success in this game thus far to be able to get them a lead, and right now Coppin leads by 6 because of that.
Jalen Hawkins with that last bucket for the Spartans. Missed bucket down low. Carter on the run. Euro step hanging, can't finish.
But
Matthews Jr.
Multiple opportunities. That's the issue for Coppin State, especially getting back defensively. You have to finish the play defensively.
A jump ball called, and Coppin State will get the possession. Right after the Super Bowl, a day later, scrum in the lane.
You see, as Carter gets out and it's just not securing the board. Tark had his hands on it, just unable to secure the board, but giving a number of opportunities to Norfolk State, which they did that yesterday in that loss where Coppin was able to give up. But this time they actually kept Norfolk State from putting points on the board. So even though there was harm, there's no foul on that scenario. Coppin gets the basketball back with the possession area.
Open, three-point shot, knocked down. Kyle Cardacci, the best in the MEAC in terms of knocking down three-pointers this season, three-pointers made, and he's extended this to a 9-point lead for the Eagles.
That looked like a zone defensive possession for Norfolk State, and if it was, the one guy that you have to make sure that you identify is Cardacey. The rest of this team shoots 27% from three when you take away his made three-pointers on the season, because he is the guy that they depend on to be able to knock down shots from beyond the arc.
46th made three this season in 18 games.
He individually shoots over 41% from three, and the rest of the team struggles without him as far as their three-point field goal percentage. And a team that shoots a lot of threes, so that's how important he is to this Coppin State lineup.
Pass intended for Matthews Jr., and that drew a foul against Coppin State. So 17 fouls against Norfolk State. Coppin State one away from making it a 1-1 for the Spartans as that ball is knocked out of bounds. Staying with the Spartans. Juan Dixon.
A little conversation.
Yes.
Between Juan and Devontae over there.
Yes.
Juan actually took the mask down. The officials getting involved. And again, I know Devontae very well, and I know Juan very well. Both two very, big-time competitors. But one thing for certain, I'm not sure who said what first, but neither one of these guys is going to allow any type of conversation going on without either of them having the last word.
Kobe Thomas looked like he was trying to play peacemaker there.
I believe he was. He knows how fiery a competitor his coach is. He's saying, Coach, we got this. We'll take care of it on the floor as they do, coming up with the turnover.
Clayton back down the floor with a layup. He was held scoreless through the first 12 minutes of this game, and it has been a different contest since. Lead of 11 for Coppin State. The Spartans reeling. More after this. 11-point lead for Coppin State. Derek Jones and Corey Alexander with you tonight. Corey, what do we see here between Juan Dixon and Devontae Carter?
Well, Devontae says something to Juan first, and you see the reaction from Juan Dixon right now. But again, both these guys, very fiery competitors. And at the same time, one thing about Juan Dixon, regardless as to whether he's a player or a coach, he is not going to allow a certain level of conversation. I'm not going to call it disrespect. I'm going to call it conversation. You're not going to talk to me and expect there not to be any type of reaction. But Juan Dixon, we saw him talking to DeJuan Clayton coming off the floor. If Juan Dixon can no longer go on the court and take care of business on his own, he's going to urge his team to try to make sure they do it against the Spartans.
Off the miss by Carter. Loose. Matthews Jr. can't finish. Another try. Knocked away again. Clayton on the run. And we'll get a whistle and a stop here.
And the action actually happened behind. The action happened behind us and what we were able to see on the camera. So there's going to be a technical foul on, I believe, Ninda Tark.
Juan Dixon's reaction was, you could see once he was told what was going on, he just went back to the bench as if to say, I can't believe it.
But the odd part about that is Coppin was in the midst of a transition opportunity. And again, I have no problem if the officials felt as though there was something worthy of a technical foul. I get it. But I believe that technical foul could have been assessed at the end of the play. As you see, there's a lot of action going on under the basket. Norfolk State got multiple offensive rebounds. And as you see, well, again, if there was maybe it was on Anthony Tark, because Ninda Tark did nothing on that possession to deserve a technical foul. So I'm not really sure what that was about. Maybe it was something that happened and they just gave it to Ninda Tark, but he did nothing on that possession to deserve a technical foul.
Three is good.
Well, regardless, Big Brother's got his back. Anthony Tark knocking down to three. And right now, Coppin State getting some separation, a 12-point lead for them here as we near the end of this first half.
Anthony Tark leads this team in scoring per game. 15 points per, 12-point lead.
It's almost as though Anthony Tark leads them in everything when you consider this young man who has been the MEAC Defensive Player of the Week 7 times already on the season, won the award 5 straight weeks, but doing it on both ends of the floor. And right now, leading his team to a strong performance in the first half on the road at Norfolk State.
Heading into the weekend, he was leading the MEAC in total points, rebounding, double-doubles, made field goals, and attempts, steals, and blocks. Might as well be selling popcorn as well.
Yeah, that's pretty much everything. Like we said, he's doing it all, to say the least.
5 seconds left. Clayton, the kick out. And then the Tart misses, and that should close out the first half. A 12-point lead for Coppin State as we are set to head to halftime. The Spartans will try to find some answers. Clayton and Thomas each with 8 points to pace the Eagles. A 12-point lead, 35-23 is our halftime score. Coming up, stay tuned for Kelsey Riggs, Seth Greenberg, and LaFonso Ellis with the halftime report right after these messages. Big Monday continues on here, ESPNU. It's the MEAC tonight, and Norfolk State in a hole by 12 against Coppin State, 35-23 the score. Hello, everybody, and once again, it's MEAC action on a Monday night. Derek Jones and Corey Alexander with you tonight. And Corey, when we take a look at this first half, the three-point shooting has been a big difference maker for Coppin State.
It has been that, and that's the area they wanted to be able to attack Norfolk State. This Coppin State team is not a big team, but they feel like they have better perimeter players, and so they have a number of guys who've been able to get out and get them started. Kobe Thomas was spectacular, knocking down the first three of the game in the corner, but he really got after it on the offensive boards as well. It wasn't just a shooter in this game, getting out in transition, making plays for himself and his teammates as well. 8 points for him in the first half, and then you have to consider DeJuan Clayton, the leader of this Coppin State team, finding his teammates, getting them involved in the action, and then taking it upon his shoulders to score himself. So 8 points for Clayton, 8 points for Thomas, as these two guys have been the leaders for Coppin State early, and part of the reason why they have a 12-point lead at halftime.
The numbers not great for Norfolk State. A season-low 23 points, and that field goal shooting percentage, Corey, not what Coach Jones wants to see.
You think about them shooting 37.6% from three-point land coming into this weekend, and then you look at a game where they're 1 for 11 in the first half. That is a struggle for Norfolk State tonight, where they've been very good all year long from beyond the arc. They don't shoot as many as does Coppin, but they're normally shooting a higher percentage, but hasn't been the case here. But a good two-point basket for Norfolk State to start off the half, and a defensive stop to try to get this lead into single digits.
10-point lead for the Eagles, and one of the other reasons why the Spartans have struggled tonight, Devontae Carter, 31 points Sunday afternoon, 2 tonight, 1 of 7 from the field.
Well, one thing's for certain, Derek, when you go off with 31 against a team and you play them the next day, you can be certain that they are going to have your number and make it difficult for you. As you see Carter going to the basket, but when he catches the basketball, there are two Eagles there to meet him, but Carter, who's very good in the mid-range, is able to knock down the mid-range jumper, and right now we've got a single-digit game. Norfolk State cutting this lead to 8 in the first minute of the second half.
4 in a row to open up the half by the Spartans. 14-4 run to close out the first half for Coppin State. Luck down low, lost the handle, but it's Thomas who finishes up, and he's into double figures tonight.
And Thomas hasn't relied on the three-point shot, although he's knocked down to three. He's been more about handling his business around the basket, offensive rebounding, hustle points, trying to help his team win.
Carter a little off to the left on the jumper. Thomas, by the way, preseason All-MEAC first-team selection. The drive and the scoop by DeJuan Clayton. Beautiful.
A nice finish by Clayton, getting to the rim. Left-handed, so of course you and our producer Greg Pike will appreciate that. Both lefties. I heard you guys talking about that pregame, so you're going to love DeJuan Clayton, his ability to finish going to his left as a left-hander, and also the pretty left-hand jump shot. But right now, it's been the Coppin State defense who's responded after the initial run.
Hey, hashtag Team Lefty. Carter in the lane, the kick out. Bryant Jr. for three. Got it. Joel Bryant Jr.
The nice play by Chavis, not forcing the action. He has 12 points. He's shot the ball very well, and he could have taken a two, but gave up his difficult two for a much easier three, getting his teammate involved. And you see knocking down the shot gets guys involved on the defensive end of the floor as Bryant steps up and takes another charge where he's done that. I believe that's his third charge taken in this game.
He's been very active tonight.
Yeah, active defensively, but this charge hurt a little worse than the others have. We saw him take two in the first half, but of course, the lefty getting it done, Derek Jones style.
Oh, that's how I used to do it back in the rec leagues.
Yeah, I'm not believing you.
No, I could not. You're right. I could not put it on the floor. I was more so. I was like the tallest kid on my team, which is saying something because I'm like 6 feet tall. But I just played back to the basket. So I had no. If I was driving, it was everyone get out of the way. Trouble's coming down the lane. But yeah.
Derek, you are my guy. I will tell you that right now. But do not ever tell the world again that you are a 6-foot post player. That does not bode well for you getting picked up in your next pickup game.
Strike that from the record. 9-point lead as Carter back down the floor. Tried to elevate there, but he got fouled, and he'll go to the line for two.
But Norfolk State being assisted by turnovers. So Coppin State, that's what helped Norfolk State win the game yesterday. 20 Coppin State turnovers led to 21 points off turnovers for the Spartans. And now an opportunity for them to add to that tab in tonight's game with Devontae Carter at the free throw line for two.
Tomorrow night on ESPN, don't miss our Super Tuesday doubleheader. First, it's an SEC battle between Arkansas and Kentucky at 7 Eastern. Then it's the Big 12 game of the night as number 14, West Virginia, takes on number 7, Texas Tech at 9 Eastern. It's Super Tuesday presented by Progressive. Tomorrow night on ESPN and the ESPN app.
Norfolk State coming back into a 1-3-1 zone, trying to throw Coppin out of their rhythm, but you got to recognize where the shooters are. And there's one standing in the corner, number 12. You need to know where he is at all times if you're going to play zone defense.
And a foul along the baseline as Anthony Tark looking to operate there. Foul trouble for his brother Nenda Tark. He has 3. Meanwhile, that's the second picked up by Chavis of the Spartans.
Right now you see zone defense once again underneath out of bounds. You have to recognize where Cardisi is at all times because he is going to be locked and loaded, ready to fire. Misses on that opportunity. But you can see when there's going to be a zone, he is going to be very aggressive looking for his opportunities from beyond the arc.
Carter with his team in an 8-point hole. Kick out the 3. Got it.
And you love that 3 from Norfolk State because it was created by the dribble drive, the dribble action, getting into the painted area. And we've talked about Cardasi and his ability to shoot the 3, but he's not the only 3-point shooter out here. Anderson actually leads the MEAC in 3-point field goal percentage.
Darrell Anderson trying to help his team get back into it. A missed bucket. Carter again for Anderson. That's good again. Darrell Anderson heating up from deep. And it's a 2-point lead.
All right, now we got an issue. I just saw Devontae Carter yelling toward the Coppin State bench. In the celebration coming back down the floor, we talked about he and Juan Dixon getting it mixed up earlier, and he's talking to the Coppin bench right now because he's making plays for his teammate Anderson, knocking down back-to-back threes to make it a 2-point game.
Coppin State ended the first half on a 14-4 run. Norfolk State has started this half with a 14-4 run. It's a 2-point lead for the Eagles, and Corey, Devontae Carter making his presence known in Eccles Hall.
Yeah, not having a great shooting night, only 2 for 9 from the field, but 5 assists and 0 turnovers for Devontae Carter, whose twin boys, Devontae and Deshaun, are at home watching right now. He wanted to make sure we gave a shout out to his young fellas. And so when you consider what he's been able to do, assisting the basketball, helping his teammates, and 2 big plays on the last 2 possessions to get Anderson threes.
Clark for Cardacci, down to the post for a lob. Outside for Cardacci for 3. Knocks it down.
That's the answer against a zone defense. It's always great to have a zone buster on the floor. Cardacci is that guy. And as they move the basketball side to side, as the defense contracted into the middle of the floor, Cardacci able to find a good look on the wing.
First 3-pointer of the half for the Eagles. The runner missing. Carter battling down low. The finish is in to cut it to a 3-point game.
And there's nothing that will get to Juan Dixon more so than getting the original miss, but not coming up with the basketball, finishing the defensive play, and giving up second chance points.
He thought that was a big problem in Sunday's loss to the Spartans. Block shot down low. Carter, Euro in the lane, hanging, can't score, tips it back up and in.
2 more second chance points for the Spartans, and right now we've got a 1-point game, and I believe that we may have a violation throwing the basketball inbounds and a turnover on Coppin State. But right now, Devontae Carter making his presence felt, not only finding his teammates, but also on the offensive glass. The point guard coming up big for the Spartans, and we've got ourselves a 1-point game here as Devontae continues to put on a show. When Devontae Carter decided to leave Odessa, Texas to come back home to Norfolk, he wanted to be able to put on in front of his family and his friends, and he's doing it for his teammates as well, assisting back-to-back threes to Anderson, who knocks down the 3, chirping to the bench a little bit, but then he got it done on the offensive glass. Not just once, but on 2 back-to-back possessions, getting to the offensive rebound and finishing it all 4 straight points for Carter, as well as assisting on back-to-back 3-point baskets. So that's going to be Devontae Carter responsible for the last 10 points for Norfolk State. As
Thomas
they made a 1-point game, but as you mentioned before, that's going to be Carter on the interior right there. And we looked at what he was able to do in their game yesterday. 31 points, 11 for 20 from the field. Made a bunch of tough twos, according to Juan Dixon. And right now, not shooting it as well, but still having a big impact on this game.
And, you know, it's important to note that Coach Dixon talked about defensively making the team do things that they're uncomfortable doing, and that was something that Carter was still able to take advantage of, but going into tonight and through tonight, it's been a different story.
It has been that, and they've made his life tough as far as his scoring is concerned. But Devontae Carter maturing enough to where he knows that he can make plays for his teammates as well. But most importantly, no turnovers for Devontae in this game as he runs the point guard position. And he's always been a scorer. I mean, a natural scorer from day one. But he has really developed as a basketball player, been able to run the show now for the Spartans.
He picked up his first foul on that previous sequence on the other end for Coppin State. That's the first turnover of the second half committed by the Spartans, who trail by 1.
But this 1-3-1 zone that morphs into a 2-3 has worked for Robert Jones and his group. Other than giving up the 1-3 to Cardacey, they've been spectacular in doing this. Not only that, limiting Coppin State to just one opportunity, allowing them to get out in transition once again.
The contested shot by Carter is no good. Near steal by Chavis. Back down the floor, though. Open shooter for 3. An air ball from Anthony Tarr. Tyrese Jenkins, he'll launch. Can't connect. 2-on-2 for the moment. Cardacey launching and connecting.
And just overrunning the shooter. Tyrese Jenkins does a great job getting out to run Cardacey off the line, but yet closing out and sliding his feet. He ran past the shooter, allowing Cardacey just to be able to sidestep and knock down a 3. And Cardacey is dangerous from beyond the arc. You can see that, shooting 41% on the season, and leads the MEAC in made 3-point field goals.
That's his 3rd of the night. We've got a full day of college hoops action across all of our networks on Saturday, and we'll start things off with a Big Ten battle as Indiana takes on 4th-ranked Ohio State. It's the Hoosiers versus the Buckeyes at noon Eastern on ESPN and the ESPN app.
And Derek, you mentioned Cardacey with 3 3-point field goals tonight. Norfolk State held him yesterday 0 for 1 from 3-point range. Coming into the weekend, had already made 45. They did a great job running him off the line, but he has found some rhythm tonight, as has Devontae Carter here in this second half.
2-point game again. Devontae Carter taking care of business. Behold the green and gold, down by 2. Coppin State and Norfolk State have plenty of notable alums, including Stephanie Reddy, ESPN's own class of 1998 for the Eagles. Sean Corbett and Tom Washington. Washington a Spartan, and 2 of 10 MEAC officials. And Bob Dandridge, Kyle O'Quinn, great history and lineage throughout in regards to HBCUs and the MEAC here, Corey.
Absolutely. You're talking about Bobby D. If Bob Dandridge, known as Bobby D in the 757. Kyle O'Quinn, who still playing in the NBA, doing a tremendous job leading Norfolk State to an NCAA tournament win, I believe, over Missouri back in 2012. And O'Quinn, one of the best big men you can imagine from Norfolk State. But they had another guy that was a guard that's pretty highly recognizable by the name of Pee Wee Kirkland, who was spectacular, winning at Norfolk State as well. So, you know, you look at Kyle O'Quinn and knocking off Missouri, and you see the banner hanging at Eccles Arena over that. And Kyle O'Quinn was a problem, to say the least, when he was beholding the green and gold. What you know about that, Derek? What you know about beholding the green and gold?
I've spent a couple of a few hours or so inside of Eccles Hall. I know a little bit about it. I've done a few games through my day from this arena, so it's a pretty cool place for sure.
It's a great facility. When you consider on-campus facilities, Norfolk State is one of the best that you're going to find. And of course, when you in a non-pandemic year, this place can get rocking. And Robert Jones, and he talked to us about that earlier, where you consider, you know, what the crowds have meant and how the involvement of the crowds has changed the game, as Carter has an opportunity to line up a 3, unable to knock it down, but another opportunity missed for Norfolk State to be able to take a lead in this game where they haven't had one since 6-5, allowing Coppin State to get back in transition.
Thomas with the finish there, and you're right, Corey. They just have not been able to get over the hump to regain the lead. Just a quick cleanup on the mention about those 10 NBA officials. That was throughout HBCUs, not just the MEAC. So great coverage in terms of what they have done for the NBA from the officiating angle. The jumper by Chavis trickling out. Clayton with a loose ball.
And we talking about alumnus. I got to give a shout to Steph Reddy, Stephanie Reddy is the first female to ever coach a men's professional basketball game. And I was on the opposing team when she was coaching that. She was coaching in the NBA D-League at the time, and I was playing in the D-League, and I can remember that game. And Steph and I would talk trash about that all the time, and I say, yeah, I gave you 30, and she says, yes, but Corey, I won. So I think she does get the bragging rights on that game. But, you know, shouts out to Steph Reddy, who could hoop. Definitely a big-time player back in her day at Coppin State.
Chavis trying to squeeze a pass in there. It gets intercepted. Clayton got some contact on the drive, and he may very well be going to the free throw line here to try to extend this lead.
Yeah, the Greenville Low Gators. My man Merle Code on the bench with that team. And you can see Stephanie, I can remember that game as if it were yesterday, playing in Greenville. And Steph was ready, to say the least, to take on the role from, I believe, Tree Rollins was the head coach and was out sick. And Stephanie took over, and she got a win against me and my Roanoke Dazzle that night.
Looks like we have a technical foul here on Clayton as Anderson knocks through the free throw.
Yeah, Clayton took exception to that foul. I mean, that was a pretty, hard foul on the break right there. I'm not sure if he said something to Chavis or to the officials, but Juan Dixon's reaction to that, not happy about the fact the second technical foul that he's seen from his team, but they're going to get, and you see Juan Dixon ready to take the ball and go home after that, as he saw the tech being lined up and he knew it was coming. But, that foul, it was some extracurricular activity on that foul from Chavis. And I understand DeJuan Clayton taking exception to that foul, because there was a little more to it. I'm surprised that the officials didn't actually go over and look at the contact.
And remember, that goes to the personal foul total. So that's 4 now on Clayton.
And that's a big foul when you consider how important he is to this Coppin State team. And not just from his scoring, but also his ability to get his teammates involved.
And he'll be heading out of this game here shortly after this next free throw. Well, or the next dead ball as he misses the free throw.
You assume, you jinxed him. You assumed he was going to make that free throw come out, but of course Clayton's got to be very careful on this possession, making sure that he plays, very intelligently on the defensive end, does not pick up that foul.
Another three-pointer from Darrell Anderson, and Anderson ties this game up. He is rolling here in the second half, 13 points.
But another three-pointer by Darrell Anderson off of a great drive and dish from Devontae Carter, going baseline drive, baseline drip. Anderson getting into the right spot to be found by his teammate.
Anthony Tark trying to find some room. Short. Carter. And he gets fouled as he was picking up some steam heading towards the rim.
Devontae Carter driving the baseline, the nice spin move, and then recognizing he doesn't have the opportunity to finish, but his teammate Anderson getting to the baseline, exactly where you need to be when your teammate drives on the opposite baseline. And now Anderson has knocked down 3 threes here in this second half, and that one was good enough to tie this game at 48.
The Spartans looking for a rare lead. They have not led since it was 6-5. Nearly game. Carter spinning, trying to split the defenders. Can't do it. Lost the ball. Pardesi ahead of the pack. He is fouled as he tumbles to the floor.
And Juan Dixon told us that they were going to tweak some things and make some adjustments as to how they guarded Carter in this game after he lit them up for 31 yesterday. And those adjustments have worked regarding Carter as a scorer. He's 5 for 16 from the field right now, struggling offensively to score, but he's done a great job helping out his teammates.
48 all as Cardacci lines up the first. Let's take a look at tonight's Wendy's Wooden Watch.
But we've got 3 guys who have a lot of lineage to the state of Virginia, being that we're in Virginia. Sam Hauser, of course, who is playing excellent basketball for University of Virginia. Carleague Jones, who starred at Radford for 3 years under Coach Mike Jones before moving on to Louisville and now on that list. And also my big fella, Kofi Coburn, whose 13 double-doubles lead Division I, but his ties to Virginia played for your analyst partner right now at Oak Hill Academy a couple years ago, alongside 757 legend Cam Thomas, as well as the 15th pick in this year's draft, Cole Anthony. So with Kofi having a great career at Illinois thus far.
2-point lead for the Eagles. Matthews Jr. working in the low block. Launches, can't score. Carter stripped on the way up. Cardacci has the ball knocked away from him. Great hustle play there by Joe Bryant Jr., who came flying back down the floor to knock the ball away.
Norfolk State has done a great job on the offensive glass as far as coming up with 8 offensive rebounds in this game, or 9 now. But they have not turned many of those into second chance points, and that's been one of the areas where they were able to beat Coppin State in yesterday's game with their second chance opportunities. But even though they've gotten those boards in this game, they haven't turned them into points. As part of the reason why they trail by 2.
Cardacci short on the corner 3. Second chance, nearly lost it. Loose, still battling, and now it's a Spartans possession. Anderson trying to find some room to launch again. Nice no-look feed and a walk. Matthews Jr. very frustrated after he got the sweet dish.
Yeah, you were on point. Beautiful find. Matthews Jr. not going straight up, and he's got a 6'6" Anthony Tark, who is a big-time athlete, but if he just goes straight up without the pump fake, then there is no travel. But because he doesn't leave the ground, you get the travel, and now all of a sudden you give Coppin State an opportunity to make it a 5-point lead, and they do just that. Cardacci with another 3, and again, when you play zone, you got to recognize where the shooter is. Cardacci 4 for 8 now from beyond the 3-point arc.
The struggles here continuing for the Spartans in terms of slowing down the 3-point shooting of the Eagles. A Bryant Jr. drive, no good. The follow, that misses, tipped in the air, still battling. And Bryant Jr., room for 3, connects.
Maybe that's the area of concern. Maybe instead of them trying to get offensive rebounds and put it back up for 2, find a way to kick it back out for 3. That time, Bryant able to come up with second chance points. But Ninda Tark with the answer on the other end of the floor. And just like that, Coppin State 5 for 7 from beyond the 3-point arc in the second half, and has allowed them to build a 5-point lead. The 3-point shooting has been the answer for the Eagles. Cardacci loving the corner, and then it's Ninda Tark finding the same corner. 3 ball is good.
Here we go. This is about as good as it gets.
Champ Week on the way. March 3rd, we're 34 days out until Selection Sunday, so that time of year is looming. Derek Jones and Corey Alexander with you, and 2 teams who would love to be a part of the MEAC tournament, and of course, get to the NCAA tournament here, battling it out on Big Monday. And, Corey, one of the interesting dynamics with the MEAC tournament is there's no set structure for the moment with what they're going to do.
Well, originally, I believe it was supposed to be 8 teams coming to the Norfolk Scope to play the tournament, but I know there's been conversations throughout the MEAC programs to where they may bring less teams in. So going to be interesting to see how that goes about. And right now, when you look at Howard as well as, you know, North Carolina Central in the South, a number of the teams with very few games on the season, let alone MEAC conference games. Howard is yet to play a MEAC conference game. And so when you look at that, will those guys be able to be in the mix for the MEAC tournament without a certain number of games to be able to participate?
Anderson missing long, and the rebound grabbed by Cardesi. It's an 8-point lead, 59-51. The Eagles leading. Before this season, as the straight-on 3 is off, Coppin State had lost 14 straight games to the Spartans before winning the first 2 in the series this year, as Hicks knocks down a 3-pointer. So Kashawn Hicks drilling a 3, and it's a 5-point lead for the Eagles.
And that's a big bucket for the Eagles when you consider that, for the Spartans, when you consider that Coppin State had built an 8-point lead. But when we look at the standings, you look at Howard only playing 5 games on the season. You look at North Carolina Central, who has been the class of the MEAC, only 7 games on the season. North Carolina Central has represented the MEAC in the NCAA tournament the last 3 opportunities, and right now they would not be in a position to qualify for the NCAA tournament if they don't get to a minimum of 13 games. And the conference tournament only counts as 1 game, so they at least have to have 12 coming in. But still having to win the tournament to get into the NCAA tournament, both these coaches recognizing that they have an opportunity. And when you look at them, they're playing now the 19th game of the year for Coppin State and the 18th game on the season for Norfolk State. Robert Jones talked to us about the fact that, hey, we risk it. We risked our health, our safety to be able to go out and play these games. I don't want to see teams that aren't playing games getting an opportunity to play in the MEAC tournament and hurt our opportunities to be able to make it to the NCAA.
The Spartans trying to grab their 11th win of the season in game number 17 for the Spartans this year, and now a foul coming up here. It's interesting, I'll tell you, you look at the standings as we just saw, it shows you to some degree how COVID has impacted things. You have some teams that have been able to get in 16, 17, 18 games. But then you have teams like North Carolina Central who are still just trying to make their way through the schedule and get to the required number, as we have a foul on the drive that will send, it looks like, Anthony Tark back to the line.
And Coach Jones told us, I mean, he wants North Carolina Central and Howard to be in the tournament. But, of course, he would love for them to be able to have more games. And he has attempted to schedule, because of the way the MEAC broke down their schedules with the North and South divisions this year. He and Lavelle Moten of North Carolina Central actually tried to schedule non-conference games. It did not work out. He also tried to schedule with North Carolina A&T. But because they didn't work out, you see teams that aren't getting the level of games that Norfolk State and that Coppin State have gotten. But I will tell you this. Very few teams, very few programs around the country are going to invite North Carolina Central into their homes. When you have the reputation that the North Carolina Central University Eagles have, they don't get the same level of invitations that Coppin State gets because they have had so much success over the past few years. Teams don't feel like they want to bring them in and give them an opportunity to lose on their home court. Now, Norfolk State got those invitations this year, and they went to James Madison, and they beat them. They went to George Mason, and they beat them. So next year, I'm sure Coach Jones isn't going to get those same level of invitations either when you consider the success that they're having, you know, and not just this year, but recently. And since he's been in head charge of the program.
The Bryant Jr. miss leads to a foul. And this will be a 1-and-1 situation, I do believe, for Coppin State. Coming up tonight at 9 Eastern on ESPN, we've got a Big 12 battle for you as Cade Cunningham and 23rd ranked Oklahoma State take on Kansas. It's the Cowboys versus the Jayhawks tonight at 9 over on ESPN and also available on the ESPN app. Number 1 Gonzaga versus BYU following up at 11 Eastern. Kobe Thomas, one of the heroes of the first half for Coppin State, missing on the front end of a 1-and-1. Should be noted that for the MEAC this season, they have split the divisions, as you saw earlier with the standings graphic, but they are playing back-to-back games against the same team. As Carter lines up a jumper, can't connect. Chris Ford keeps it alive.
Another opportunity, offensive rebound for Norfolk State, which they've done a great job of tonight, but they haven't turned it into second chance points. We'll see if Hicks is able to knock one down here. Is not, but that's a concern for Coppin State moving forward. How do they rebound against bigger teams, especially when the luck is not on the floor? You look, it's a small lineup right now with Tark, the tallest player at 6'6", who has the ball at the top of the key, and he's a big-time rebounder, but oftentimes he needs help, especially on the defensive glass.
The foul as Thomas went to work down low, and he'll go to the free throw line. This should be 2, as, again, the issues of containing Coppin State down low at the bucket here coming up in the last few minutes as they try to hold on here with just over 4 minutes left. Coppin State not great from the free throw line, 62% as a team on the year.
Yeah, they haven't helped themselves in this game either. 10 for 19 from the free throw line, and you consider you've given away 9 points in this game where you could have had some separation from Norfolk State. And that's one of those things to where you're going to have to be able to, with a lead, you're going to have to take care of business at the free throw line to try to seal this thing up at the end.
That was Anderson's second foul, by the way. Joe Bryant Jr. looked like he wanted to take a 3 there. Gives it up to Anderson. 10 seconds to shoot. Bryant Jr. contested 3. Can't get it to go. Hicks tries to chase it down. Barely stays in bounds. Spins off. Lays it up, but can't finish. And then off the hand of Kobe Thomas. 8-point lead for Coppin State, trying to hold on when we come back.
Lift every voice.
On April 2nd, 1984, John Thompson's Georgetown Hoyas, led by Patrick Ewing, beat Houston in the NCAA championship game, making Thompson the first black coach to win an NCAA basketball title. Thompson became a coaching icon during his 27 years at Georgetown. When he passed away in 2020, several coaches honored him by wearing his signature white towel.
John Thompson, such a gigantic figure throughout the history and the scope of college basketball, that legendary white towel. And Corey, he was such an influential figure in college basketball.
Well, he definitely was that. And, of course, when we look at Juan Dixon and Robert Jones, I'm sure both looking up to Coach Thompson. And, got to give offer the condolences to the families of my guy Lou Hill, who we lost yesterday, who was another one of those, black coaches who I'm sure looked up to Coach Thompson. And Coach Thompson was a role model for, but Lou, the head coach at Texas Rio Grande Valley. He was assistant coach at Oklahoma, assistant coach at UNLV, where I was able to get to know him, very well over the past few years recruiting. But, we've lost a lot over this past year and a half. Of course, John Chaney as well. And, again, condolences to the family of Louisville.
The follow at the rim as Tark going in after the miss by Thomas. It's an and one that will put Tark on the line.
And Tark, we talked about him, really the biggest guy on the floor right now for Coppin State. And although undersized, very few people have the athleticism that Anthony Tark has, and his ability to be able to finish through the contact, the strength, and then knocking down the free throw, making it an 11-point game now for Coppin State, who after taking a punch in the mouth from Norfolk State in that 14-4 run to start the second half, have regained their confidence and trying to put the Spartans away here on their home court.
Chavis going to Carter here. 11-point lead for the Eagles. Spinning off, down low. Loose ball, a battle, a sea of bodies. Carter trying to keep it alive. Cardesi out of the scrum with a basketball. Anthony Tark with the drive, the bump, the finish, trickles in.
Well, one of the things we've seen is Norfolk State has had to match down to find a way to defend Tark. So now there are no bigs on the floor for Norfolk State either. Although Chavis continues to play very good basketball, knocking down the three. But they have to find a way to stop Coppin State on this end of the floor. And Anthony Tark has been a difference maker on the last few possessions.
So Anthony Tark will go to the line here. Again, the fouls piling up on both sides.
You know, we talked with Coach Dixon earlier today, and you would have thought that it was, you know, Ninda Tark following older brother, but it was actually once Ninda committed to Coppin State, when they were able to actually lure Anthony to transfer in. And so it's normally the reverse, but this time it was the younger brother getting big brother to come play with him. But Coach Dixon very happy that he's got both the Tark brothers on his side.
Another set of brothers, Aaron and Andrew Robinson, who played with Coppin State, helping as a part of that to influence both the Tarks to join the program because of what Coach Dixon can do for you in terms of your skill set and potentially help you play professionally down the line. And this shot has now trouble looming here for the Spartans, down by 11 with just under 2 minutes left.
And this is the time now. If you're Coppin State, you've got to be able to take care of your business at the free throw line. That was a quick shot by Cardesi. Of course, the shot clock wasn't all the way down yet. I'm not sure if they need to get a shot up that quickly and give Norfolk State the opportunity to put points on the board.
Bryant gets down the lane and lays it in to cut it to a 9-point game with 1:23 left. And Coach Jones and company will call a timeout, just one remaining for each side. College basketball, NBA, UFC, we have it all for you on Saturday night at 6 Eastern on ESPN. It's North Carolina taking on 9th-ranked Virginia. Then at 8 Eastern on ABC, KD, Kyrie, James Harden, and the Nets take on Steph and the Warriors. And finally at 10 Eastern on ESPN Plus pay-per-view, it's the UFC 258 main card. That is what I call a lineup on Saturday.
Yeah,
wire to wire.
Hopefully we see that lineup. Of course, everything today in college basketball, NBA basketball is TBD. And, of course, we saw North Carolina's game actually postponed 2 hours prior on Big Monday because of an issue of a video of 2 players for North Carolina out at a party maskless that forced Miami to say, hey, we can't play this game, especially not understanding and not knowing what's going on with this team. So we hope that Virginia-North Carolina matchup happens on Saturday because we're praying that no one turns up positive with those tests that come up this week. But with this season, everything is to be determined.
And Norfolk State, one of the few teams in the MEAC allowing fans in the stands so far this season, and their capacity is right around 250. But when you see the fans there, it's clear that You know, this is a real clear and present danger in terms of COVID and college basketball being able to manage that to the finish line is certainly going to be an interesting part of the finish to the college basketball season.
Absolutely, and the dynamic of fans, it's not about necessarily the fans being in the arena for the games. It's simply about, do the fans have contact with the players after the games? Are these family members going up and hugging and saying hello? And at that point now, where many college students, and I won't say all, but many college athletes are living in somewhat of a bubble. But as we get back to the point to where students are coming back to campus, now the exposure rate goes up, and we'll have to see how this thing is determined moving forward for the next month or so remaining in college basketball's regular season.
Give credit to the fans who are in attendance this evening wearing those masks diligently. And looks like we'll have a review coming up.
Yeah, that ball went out of bounds right in front of Norfolk State's bench, and of course, as they should, they're saying it's their basketball that it went off DeJuan Clayton, so the official's going to go over and make sure under 2 minutes you have the opportunity to do that. And as Clayton tries to go through and spins out, that's going to be close, because you see Anderson does get his hand on the basketball, but was that Clayton's hand on the basketball last?
Going to be tough, I think, maybe to overturn the original call.
Yeah, and give the officials credit for, you know, making a quick, swift decision, not spending a lot of time, as Juan Dixon's trying to use it as a timeout.
and that's something to note. You take a look at the timeouts remaining. One on the side of Coppin State, none left for Norfolk State the rest of the way. And a foul here as it's Clayton who is doubled over on the floor. And that's going to be on Anderson. That's his fourth.
And Anderson getting caught up, and he tries to sell that Clayton tripped. And it wasn't a lot of contact there, but was enough contact. Jose Cardeon right behind the play, making the call as Anderson tries to state his case. But, you know, I love the fact, and I did it as a player, you try to state your case on something that is not going to be changed. But, of course, we all do it, but it's not as though they're going to say, hey, you know what, you're right, you didn't foul him. Let's take that off the board. And White Clayton's still going to get to go to the free throw line and get 2 shots.
10-point lead for Coppin State. Clayton, 81% from the line so far this season. Knocks down the second.
And you mentioned that Coppin State's not a great free throw shooting team, but it's always beneficial when your point guard is. That's the guy who's normally going to have the ball in his hands with a big lead at the end of the game that's going to have to go and ice it. And Clayton knocks down 2 big ones there.
Carter with a 3 to cut it. You know, actually, it'll be foot on the line. It'll be a 2, just a 2, to cut it to a 9-point game.
You look at the free throw discrepancy in this game, though, when you consider 15 for 25 from Norfolk State, Coppin State only 5 for 7 from the free throw line as we get a look at Devontae Carter with that right foot on the three-point line. A long 2. Still a 9-point game, a 3-possession game for Coppin State, who simply just has to take care of business at the free throw line, and they'll walk away with the MEAC road win and 3 of 4 over Norfolk State on the season.
And that's notable. They are 1-9 this season on the road. So this is a big win potentially for them. They've got 5 players in double figures at the moment. And a whistle here as Ninda Tark will head to the free throw line. Juan Dixon trying to get his team to their 7th win of the season and go to 6-4 in the MEAC.
And more importantly, stop the 3-game skid. Juan Dixon's team started out MEAC play 5-1. They've lost their last 3. So this will make the trip back home much sweeter if they're able to finish this up and leave with a win here been a very difficult team to beat, especially on their home court, regardless as to whether or not this place is packed with fans or not. Norfolk State is a tough team to beat in this building. This would be a huge win for the Coppin State Eagles.
Carter stops, tries to kick it out, and throws it away. It's in the backcourt, so it's a backcourt violation, and we'll give the ball back to the Eagles with 57 seconds left to go, and winning 3 out of 4. I mean, this is substantial if you're Coppin State, because as we said earlier, this is a team that had lost 14 times in a row to Norfolk State.
And Robert Jones talked to us about that. He had players on his team that had never lost to Coppin State. And it was something that was a point of conversation for them. And he's certain that that played a part in them getting swept by Coppin when they visited Baltimore earlier this year. And so coming back in the game yesterday, he felt like, hey, his team had a chip on their shoulder. They had a bit of an edge that allowed them to come away with the win. But it's been Coppin that showed that edge here tonight.
Devontae Carter had 31 yesterday. Flirted with a triple-double with 8 rebounds and 7 assists. He's closing in on a triple-double again tonight, 13, 8, and 8. But you can see the difference there from the field. 11 of 20 yesterday, 6 of 20 tonight, Corey.
Yeah, it makes a big difference when you're talking about, 18 less points. And again, we knew he was going to get special attention from Juan Dixon and the defense of Coppin State in this game. Devontae played very hard, did a lot of great things in this one, just didn't shoot the basketball well when his team needed him to.
Joe Bryant Jr. trying to scratch out some points here down the stretch, leaning in, wild shot. And a foul as Anthony Tark will go to the free throw line. Coming up next, Jackson State and Southern, as those two teams getting together in Baton Rouge. Dallin Cuff and Jordan Cornett with the call.
Yeah, my guy's Dallin going to be play-by-play tonight. He's coming out of the analyst chair, taking on the play-by-play action. Looking forward. I got to check my guys out.
First free throw from Tark, sinks through. And again, coming up right after this game finishes up. 1 out of 2. Carter just not his night tonight as he goes towards the lane, gets stripped, and has to commit the foul on the other side of it. Corey, while we have some time left here, what do you see from both ends here as far as where they could go the rest of the way?
Well, I think these are going to be 2 of the top teams to beat when you look at the MEAC tournament. And I'm not sure what the format will be, how many teams will be able to come from the North Division and the South Division. Morgan State, of course, very good as well. So you got those 3 teams who will battle it out in the North Division. And when you look at Coppin State's remaining schedule, having Howard 4 times on that schedule, who is yet to play a MEAC game, we're hoping that Howard does get back in action, has the opportunity to play, and then going to Delaware State to go up and see my man Keith Goody. Shout out to Goody. But, when you look at what they have coming up, winnable opportunities for Coppin, but this is a big win to finish up the stretch between Morgan State as well as Norfolk State, 2 of the top contenders in that North Division, and trying to find their way into the MEAC tournament to give themselves a chance to win it and represent the MEAC in the NCAA tournament.
One of the few bright spots tonight, Keonze Chavis for the Spartans as the three-pointer is in. Career-high 15 points for him as he fouls out. But in the end, it's the Eagles who grab the win, 74-64 over the Spartans of Norfolk State. A 10-point win, the second road win of the season for Coppin State, as these 2 teams have to be separated second day in a row. That's happened as these 2 teams jawing at each other as they head off the floor. Coppin State wins 3 out of 4 74-64. Now let's get you to Dallin Cup and Jordan Cornette in Baton Rouge for Jackson State Southern. Thanks for joining us. Good night from Norfolk.
A redshirt senior, I mean, that is a treasure trove for a coach. I mean, you can lean on guys like that who've logged so many minutes, that understand time, possession, tempo, pacing. Severely missed.
Sealy gets the rebound, but his shot is swatted out of there by Darius Hicks.